Welcome everyone. Very excited to be a part of this second public speaking webinar that the MVPs are putting on for other MVPs. It's the first time we've done something like this. The series is the second in the series. We did one last month on presentation delivery, and I thought it was awesome. It was hosted by Dale Ziegler, and we had some MVP stars on there giving some tips. I picked up some good information on that one. I think you guys will get a lot out of this one as well. Today, we're going to be talking about choosing your topic and submitting a winning proposal. I think it's very timely with Dreamforce coming up, and there's always the community events year-round. So definitely, I would encourage you guys to think about that and how to structure the proposals you guys are going to be submitting for those events if you are speaking. Let me start things off by just giving you an overview of the MVP presentation team. This overall series is being brought to you by the presentation team, and we are here to help you guys. We're here to help you guys speak publicly, present in any way we can. Doesn't mean all of us are the experts, but we're here to facilitate what we can, possibly uncover opportunities to speak or share tips and things like that. So this overall series has been really exciting because we've reached out to other MVPs who have been selected by MVPs as awesome speakers. So these are the best of the best here today. I'm Phil Weinmeister, if you guys don't know me. I'm the Senior Director of Product Management at 7 Summits, our community solutions provider. And I'm going to give a couple of tips of my own. I was excited to host this one. I think this is an important topic overall in the series. And so I'll give you guys a couple tips, and I'm going to hand it off to Jody in a couple minutes here. So I would start with saying it all starts with this submission. It's easy to kind of get ahead of yourself and just focus on a presentation, but it's like, I think you hear this phrase spoken around, the lottery. You can't win if you don't play. It's the same thing. You can't win the game if you don't play it. You can't speak at one of these events if there's a selection process and you don't submit a proposal. So you have to get through that step first. Maybe obvious, but I think it's easy to underestimate the importance of it. Maybe come in thinking, yeah, I want to speak at this event, and go ahead and just throw something in quickly, and maybe you're not putting your best foot forward. So hopefully at the end of this session you guys will feel very comfortable and confident with that process. Your topic choice is extremely important. It's going to drive not only your level of expertise but your passion as well. So you may know a lot about a particular topic, but if you frankly don't care about it, that's going to come out in your presentation. So there's the part of it that affects whether you get selected to speak, and then there's the part of it that just impacts how that presentation is going to go. So it's very important to pick the right topic, and don't rush the process. Take your time, really think through it. So another thing I'd say is don't be afraid of data that's available. So for example, if 50 speaking slots are available and 120 people are proposing a presentation on going from classic to lightning experience, let's think twice about speaking on that same topic. You might be an expert, but it might make sense to go to maybe a secondary area of expertise that really is not seeing as much activity. I'm not saying it's not you still want to speak on a topic that's hot, or at least warm at a given time. You want people to be interested in it, but it doesn't necessarily have to be your number one topic of expertise. So think about that. What are other people wanting to speak on, and where can you fit in? And if it's a niche, that might work out for you. So your favorite topic might not be the one that others are losing sleep over as well. So there may be a topic you've been presenting on for 5 years straight. Maybe this is the year to move on to something else. So think through all that. Take a look at what people are saying. If there's any data available, I'd say definitely look at that. So this might sound like the beginning of a of a tall tale, but I was in a Boston pub once and heard some wise words from an awesome admin. This is actually at the Boston World Tour just last month, actually, talking to Mike Gerhardt, and we were talking about the admin track and the call for presentations. And he had some wise words, and he said, don't go shallow and submit a ton of proposals that cover every possible topic. Go very deep. Focus on a couple areas, one or two areas that you know extremely well, and spend a lot of time on those proposals. Really craft them, make them amazing. Those are some wise words, I think. I think it's easy to be tempted to create 5 to 10 proposals and submit them, and there's no rule against that. You're absolutely allowed to do that. But this is from the man himself who runs this organization and is the face of that organization. And I think it's pretty wise to think, all right, let's just take a step back, really take your time, and submit something that you can stand on, that you're proud of. You're putting your best foot forward. And the last thing I want to mention is don't let a no discourage you. Look, there may be a few of you that are superhuman that never get rejected when you're applying to speak, but 99.9% of us are going to see something like this. And here's an email on the right. I actually got 3 of those from Texas Truman. So 0 for 3, and that's okay. That'll happen sometimes. But you should learn from it. I think Amber's going to talk about that a little bit later as well. So think about your topic and your abstracts. Could you have improved them? Did you put in 2 sentences for your abstract in a rush to get it out when maybe you should have had more detail? Who's the event audience? And also, what's the timing of the event relative to things happening in the Salesforce ecosystem? What I mean there is, and this has happened to me multiple times, I have a presentation on topic A. I submit it to one event, accepted, and there weren't very many speaking slots. So I was pretty happy about that. And another event where, at least probability-wise, there was a higher chance of being accepted, that one got rejected. So it's good to stop and think about it. Now, sometimes, it may come down to, those reviewing it, and they have a preference, but a lot of times these days there's a good judging process and selection process to be fairly objective. So there's something that caused yours to not get selected. Don't get down. You might be bummed, but just think about why and try to learn from that. And there will be another event. That's something I can guarantee you. There will be another event. All right. Well, with that said, those are my humble thoughts on how you guys might be able to craft a good topic and a good proposal. But now we're really getting to the meat of this webinar, which is the 3 individuals who have been selected by you as excellent speakers, excellent MVP speakers. The first one we have today is Jody Wagner, and we're going to go ahead and hand it off to her. And take it away, Jody. Really happy to have you today. Oh, actually, before I hand it off, Jody's been an MVP since 2016, and she is located in London, if you were curious.
Thanks, Phil. And in London, we say that all the best advice is dispensed in pubs. So I really want to talk to you about, before we get to the part where we're submitting our talk, how about selecting a topic? So a lot of times when it comes to selecting a topic, we generally think, well, I don't really have anything to say. Everything has been done. What am I going to add to it? Like Phil has mentioned, there could be 50 different presentations on Lightning, but how do I give it my own perspective? So repetition is good. Everybody's going to maybe want to hear a few of those presentations on Lightning, but use your own perspective. And everyone does love a good triumph over adversity story. So your Lightning story could be about how you thought you were just playing around with Lightning and you accidentally turned it on in your org and your whole sales team came to a grinding halt. Everybody loves those types of stories. So definitely make sure you share your perspective and what you've gained out of working with that particular situation. So when you start thinking about topic areas, ask yourself some questions. What do I know a lot about? What am I passionate about? How did I learn something? What obstacles did I overcome? What was my biggest failure? What was my greatest achievement? Like I said before, we really love those triumph over adversity stories. So one of our members here in London had told a story how she thought she did this really great thing in her org, and she ended up turning off like every workflow rule in the org, and nobody had to approve anything. So, she was able to come back from it, but that whole transition and just listening to the story gave it a really, relatable feel to it. And about the passion piece of it, I can't emphasize that enough. I know you'll hear that probably a few times from me and probably from some of the others in the group as well. So identifying topics. Again, what perspectives can you add? Again, passion. What are you passionate about? Are you passionate about user adoption? Are you passionate about building lightning components? What are those things that really get you excited? What are you an expert in? Or what are you really experienced in? What do you want to learn? What is trending? What is the event? What is the audience? So Phil had mentioned about trying to make sure you're gearing your presentation to the right audience. And sometimes what ends up happening is that, like a world tour, you might just be at a surface level. So you're not going to actually start, hey, I'm going to build you a lightning component right on stage. You might want to be more surface level on that and maybe explain some things, as opposed to a community conference where people are really there and want to see things happening and want to watch you build something on stage. Preparation is everything. Proper planning and preparation prevents poor performance. Aside from the great alliteration in that quote, it really is true. So the key is really preparing, and if you can, over preparing. So keep a list, capture ideas, flesh out, the things that come to you. I always carry a small notebook with me. I know I could do it in my phone, but I find it much easier in a notebook because then I can kind of make a little notes on the side. Brainstorm on some potential topics, maybe ask people some questions, try to see like what's really going on, what are people talking about in the community, what are some gaps, and then build presentations for multiple topics. I like to keep a library of presentations, so even if I'm not doing that same exact presentation twice, I may be doing a flavor of it, and that just continues to add to my library of presentations. So if something happens, and I can tell you at our community conference, it did happen where one of the presenters' wife went into labor that morning and they couldn't attend. So we got somebody with 40 minutes notice and we're like, hey, you're going on stage. So it's good to have some of these in your back pocket, and you can always kind of change them around a little bit, update them based off a few new releases. It's great to have them. And again, you can always do it from a different perspective and build that library. So now evaluating topics. You've thought about what you want to do. Now what journey do you want to take your audience on? You can teach them something, but just remember, if it's something you don't know a lot about, so if I'm going to do a presentation on, again, I'm going to talk about building a lightning component, that's not something I do in my daily job, so I'd have to upskill. Just remember that if you're going to do this presentation, so like now with everybody submitting for Dreamforce, recognize that if that's what you're going to talk about and that's what you're going to submit, you need to learn how to do it. So give yourself that time. Think about the journey and the outcome. You don't want the outcome to really be, well, I can't build a lightning component, so I went and got a developer instead. You want to think about what that journey and outcome is and what takeaways people can get from the presentation. Also know your audience. Beginner, intermediate, advanced, know exactly how deep you can go with a particular topic and make sure you gear it that way. If you sell it as a beginner topic and you're actually doing really advanced things, then you're going to lose people. So you really want to make sure that you know exactly what level you should be speaking at. And then start with topics you care about to start. That's another way of saying make sure it's something you're passionate about. What is your goal? What should your audience take away? So if I'm going to use an information type presentation where I'm informing my audience and I'm teaching them, I want to make sure I'm providing very clear, accurate, and interesting content. I want to maybe give them some additional artifacts, some things that they can take away, some best practices, stuff that they could put in action right away. So you want to make sure you give them the right information so they can kind of come away with it with, I'm going to do this in my org when I get back to the office. You can also try to persuade somebody of something. So this could be a situation where, hey, I know Lightning's really cool, but I'm just going to stay over here with Visualforce. That makes a lot of sense to me. Know that that's really around promoting a viewpoint. That wasn't actually my viewpoint, but I'm just showing an example. It's based on opinion. You might have done something and this made a lot of sense to you, and you've been very successful with a particular method, and you want to kind of get everybody in all in on that as well. What you're trying to do is win over your audience and recognize this could be the most difficult type of presentation. I'd say a pro tip there is probably not to do your first talk ever trying to do a persuasion type presentation. Think of high school debate club. Now that you know what you want to talk about, you need to write your abstract. So very simply, your abstract is writing a pitch for your talk. You want that to be a very clear format. You want to present the challenge, expected knowledge to be gained, describe what you're going to cover, and the key takeaway of what they'll learn. So you've heard this said before as tell them what you're going to tell them what you're going to tell them, or tell them what you told them. But also, I try to look at it as a journey, right? So what is that problem that we're trying to solve? You're trying to do X. And I'm going to give you tips as to how you should do X and what you should avoid while doing that. And then what you can take away for you to be successful. So it's being very clear on those items of what you're going to get out of the presentation. When writing your abstract, I would really reconsider if you're really having a difficult time. If that abstract is a struggle, then it may not be the right topic for you, or you just may need more time with it. And I would also caution that if you're really struggling with the abstract, writing your presentation is probably not going to get any easier. So I usually kind of use that as a warning sign. And then also, if the abstract is not appropriate for the audience or event, really kind of think about that and make sure you have the right level of information for what you're doing. Like I said before, World Tour is probably a little bit more surface level. Dreamforce, definitely deep dives, but you can also gear it. And then again, community conferences, I would definitely go with more deep dives. And remember, your abstract, you're really trying to convince people why they should attend your talk. It's kind of your pitch as to why they should attend.
Jody, those are some awesome points. One thing you mentioned that resonates with me is around this concept of, if you're struggling with your abstract, reconsider. That completely makes sense. If you feel like you can't get behind it, or it's maybe not making sense to you, it's not going to make sense to someone else. It's not going to resonate with them. So that's a good point. Before we pass it off, let me ask you a quick question. You mentioned also creating a library of content, which is very wise. How do you go about deciding for an event whether you want to kind of take something from your library, whether you update it or not, or create something from scratch, and how often do you decide to go with new versus something existing?
So that's an interesting question. I have taken presentations from my library maybe twice. The first time was one where I had done it at World Tour, and I think it was quick enough, it was easy enough at World Tour, and I was like, okay, I'm going to repurpose this for Dreamforce, and I didn't actually change the presentation, and when I did it the second time, I didn't really like it. I felt like I could have done a much better job if I had kind of revised it. The second time I did that, I actually made the presentation much longer. It was a deeper dive, and I thought it was a really great presentation. I know it sounds weird to say that, but I thought it was much better because of the fact that it gave additional details and context to it. So I think it's a case-by-case basis, and it feels like it depends on how inspired I'm feeling. If there's a lot of really great things I want to talk about, then absolutely I'm going to maybe write something new. If I'm struggling and I kind of want to do a variation of a theme, I'll pull something from my library.
Awesome. All right, well, thank you so much. Up next, we have Jean-Michel, who is in Paris. He's been an MVP since 2015, and we're very excited to have him today. Take it
And
away.
I'm very excited to be with you as well. So the very first thing I was asking myself when I was selected and asked to give some tips there is, or am I relevant for that as a French guy? I mean, I'm a French guy. I'm not speaking very good English, and finally maybe it's a good point to help others just because being a non-native English speaker made me overwork some parts, making me work on my words and trying to find a best line and be sure that everything is more relevant. So maybe I could give some tips there. And I also failed a lot of time, and I still and I think that it's very good to learn from all those failures. And finally, sometimes I did some talks, fortunately. And I'm not just a shy guy. Most of the time, I'm very community guy, and I try to help other people to go on stage as well because I like that, and I'm very enthusiastic about that. So I think that maybe I'm much more relevant than what I thought at first. So very first thing, okay, I'm not native English speaker, and I think that maybe there is others in the audience. And if you are, just don't really worry. It will work anyway. You will be able to go for that. The very first thing that you have to do is tell your audience about that. They love foreign accents, especially if you do your best effort to make you understood, and you tell them, oh, I'm sorry, I'm French. I know I'm gonna have a very big accent, so don't worry if there's something you don't understand. Just ask me, and I will repeat that again, and everybody will be really happy to help you in this place, and the community will help as well. We have a very good community, and there is this Oana spirit, and if you ask something to someone, as an example, to read or correct or even make better words in your line, they will definitely do it. So definitely don't worry about that, and don't be afraid about asking. So choosing a topic, my very first reflex when I try to choose a topic is about where I'm relevant on this topic. So the very first thing is where I got experience on that. The second one is where I already learned. Maybe I don't have the right experience, but I'm interested in something, and I try to learn. And by trying to learn, I've been facing a lot of problems, a lot of questions that I have corrected or answered by myself, and could share this experience to the others. And the third one is what you're passionate about. I'm passionate about images, and everybody knows that. And here I'm very relevant about even very new thing that is coming with images, and I'll be able to submit a talk, even if I'm not really ready to do it right now. I know that because I'm passionate, I will go in it, I will go deeper, and I will find the time to do that just because this is my passion. So that's a very good place as well to place and submit a talk about. And the other one is, as an attendee, maybe you can ask yourself what you want to learn. When you look at the line in Midwest Dreaming or French Dreaming or all those dreaming, and you see all those talks, you can pick the one that feels really relevant, and maybe you can add your own values on top of that. Or maybe you can talk to the speakers, and by discussing with themselves, you'll be able to find some other topics that are very close to this one, but that are more representative about your experience or your learning. And maybe if you're shy or not feeling ready and have something like, I have the content for thought, you can ask someone to co-speak with you and add values to speak as well as it will add value to you. Okay, so now you have to choose a good title for your topic, and definitely humor is working there. It's pretty awesome when you can put something there. There is a lot of example in Dreamforce and Dreaming talks that go for it or read that as a good example, and also learn from social media. Ask yourself why I clicked on this link. What is working on me when I read a tweet that makes me want to go there? It's the same kind of mechanism that you have to find for your title. If your title has to be submitted as a Twitter post, it needs to be as efficient as a Twitter post to make people want to come here, just like they want to click on the Twitter post to follow a link. And if you're like me, non-native English speaker, just ask your friend that are better in English than you to give you some help as soon as you got something that you think it could be a good topic, so they could change and enhance that a little. Okay, and then there is a lot of great examples. So I'm gonna go through some there. Chuck Norris, your contact in my first lining component from Dreamaway. I think it was on another calling as well. My first feeling when I read that, it's fun because of the Chuck Norris thing. I know that the guy or the girl that's gonna do the talk must be very funny. And my first lining component make me feel like, oh, it's gonna be easy. It's not like the very expert kind of thing about lining components. So maybe if I never did a lining component, give me a clue that I could attend to this one to start. So this is the thing that you have to put in your topic if you want to people feel like it's fun and easy. 10 commandments for writing spiffy or lining app. Okay, only 10 things, but that's good. I mean, a number of things make you feel like you will come back with something at the list, and it will help me to optimize what I really know, because I know how to do a lining app, but maybe I'm not doing that perfectly. So I will be able to optimize what I already know, and this is a very good way to put topic in it also. 6 reporting formulas that will delight your users. Okay, once again, it's 6 tricks only, and you users, you'll be able to bring more to your users if you go there. And this is a very good point. Sometimes you don't make people learn for themselves only, but they will be able to have the capacity to give more to other special users or developers. And this is a very good way to indicate what you could have as a takeaway from this talk. So no, you got your topic and you have to work on an abstract. Then you have to make people go there and assist. So title is just clicking the link, but when they come to the page, they have to read the page. So for me, the 3 more important things is takeaways, and takeaways. I feel like it's a more important thing that needs to be in your abstract clearly, because people want to attend to get something from this talk. Then you have to work on your abstract, just like SEO kind of thing. The words that you are using are very important, and because they have no sound. This is the only thing they get, and most of the time people don't read the abstract first. They just quick read it in diagonal, and then maybe they can go deeper. So you have to catch the eye first, and then you have to explain that more easily. And now you have submitted a talk and you've been rejected. Don't worry, it happens all the time. But the very good thing is even if you have to loop and try again, you have to understand why you fail. And dreaming events are very good for that. I'm pretty sure that if you submit to a dreaming event and ask the people, because you may know the people, or you may ask the people around who is doing the selection, and they will share that with you, why I've been rejected. Not very in an aggressive way, but just like, I want to be better. So could you just let me know why I've been rejected? Most of the founder and organizer of the dreaming events will do that. Maybe not when they're gonna run the dreaming event. And maybe you have to wait something like a month or 2, or maybe just after. But they will go back to you and give you more example, and maybe try your abstract and the title with your friends. Could be a good way also to get a feedback. So French dreaming is just next stop. for the one of the next stop. I know there is many others, but we still have a call for speaker that is open for a few weeks. So this is a very good place to submit. So please just do it. And my word is that I will get back to any of you that ask for why you've been rejected if you are, and I will be really happy to have you with me if you're not rejected, and if you just want to assist, you're welcome as well. Thank you guys. I hope it was helpful.
Thank you so much. And I got a question for you. I had a few people contact me, and after the first webinar, they said they liked it, but they were curious to hear maybe from someone with an international perspective. Two of you guys are residing outside the United States, which is awesome. And I have a question for you specifically. So how do you, for you personally, when you're considering speaking at an event and you're submitting a topic, do you have a different approach based on where the event is located and what country it's located in, or is that not too much of a factor? How do you go about considering that?
So in fact, in front of the people, I don't make a big difference. Beside the fact that I try to express that I'm not native speaker in this language, it helps a lot to make people understand that you're gonna make mistakes, but that's okay. But from the rehearsal, what is and the making of the presentation you're gonna make, it's really important not to start writing the thing. I find myself in big problems when I just write the thing that I want to do as a talk. So most of the time I start talking about that, writing what I'm talking about that, not just talking in my head, and making that from my words. It's that I used to say is much more important than doing that and giving that to coming from what I've written. Because when you wrote, you have more vocabulary and you can wait and search. When you're saying the thing, you have a limited vocabulary, and you don't. And if you get broken there and try to find your word, then it's gonna be like a nightmare. You have a word in your head somewhere, and you don't know how to deal with that. So definitely, my key is don't try to write right away. Maybe you just write a very cool abstract. Then you start to make it with your words by saying that, and you rewrite that by your words as you say them and not as you write them.
Well, thank you very much. Appreciate those tips there. And we have one more speaker, and this is our first two-time speaker in the webinar series. This is Amber Boaz, who has been an MVP since forever, or at least since 2011. She's in North Carolina, if you guys didn't know that. Take it away, Amber.
Hey, everybody. Hi from the United States. Aside from Phil, the rest of the crowd's international. For those of you who don't know, I'm Amber9904 on Twitter, and I work for Red Hat. All right, so let's talk about choosing your topic. So, pick a card, any card, right? What are you gonna talk about at this event? Start with some brainstorming. So what's hot right now? I don't know if you guys noticed, but in the admin blog post that I think Mike Gerholt wrote, he talked about Lightning, he talked about Einstein, he talked about those sorts of things. I would add field service Lightning is a hotness right now. The healthcare cloud, the financial services cloud. Those clouds are hot right now, and so any presentation you can do about that, so much the better. Another great source is FAQs from your user group meetings. What are people asking you? What are people asking other people? Where can you add some value with that? I happen to know that Matt Bertuzzi's book came out of that sort of FAQs at user group meetings. You can also just pick something you want to learn before the presentation. This is risky because you don't know what you don't know, but that's absolutely something that can be done and is kind of fun. It's a challenge for yourself. But be real careful that you pick something manageable. Better to go small with this than to go too big, because that can get really hairy really quickly. So with your title, you want to do something catchy, right? Something quick and easy to understand. If it's specific to a particular cloud, be sure to mention that cloud. Plays on words work really well. Lightning in a bottle, lightning never strikes twice, that kind of thing. And you can also play on kind of cultural touch points. So I was having a conversation with Melinda about a topic that she's proposing. We were talking about the kind of the well-known fact, air quotes around the word fact, that FedEx drivers don't turn left to save on gas and to save on time. I don't know if that's actually true, but it's kind of one of those things that everybody knows. And so if you can incorporate that into a field service lightning thing, that's a cool thing to do. Also know if the sessions will be listed alphabetically, right? So I know for Dreamforce, sessions are listed alphabetically unless they change it this year. So while I can't think of a topic that would involve aardvarks, if you can come up with a way to do that, you're going to be at the top of the list, and you're more likely to get a whole bunch of folks. So keep it simple, right? The title is not the place for all the words. You don't need a book title here. It needs to not be your abstract, and you need to pay attention to what are the limitations. I don't remember which event it was, but they said it can't be longer than 80 characters, right? So don't, you're not going to get an exception to that. That's how much space they have. Honor that with your title. And tell one story with the title. Don't try to, do all the things. That's what your abstract is for. Lists are a great way to structure your content and to get a lot of attention. So the 7 habits, right? I don't know how many years in a row that's been a Dreamforce thing, but it's many, many, many. Top 10, favorite 5, worst 3, 8 examples of, 3 people who, etc. This is a great way to catch people's attention, and you're kind of telling them what the deliverable is going to be. What can they expect? I'm going to hear about 3 horrible things that happened that I can get around, right? If your title's the 3 worst 3 things. So numbers, top X lists are super useful. That's also true for your dashboards, but that's not what we're talking about today. All right, so you want to think of your title as very clickbait-y, right? Something that's eye-catching. Think BuzzFeed, right? Something that's memorable. The one time I did the thing and you won't believe what happened. You want to leave them wanting more, right? You want them to come to the talk, so your title and abstract shouldn't cover everything. Also, if you can, why should they pick yours over somebody else's? There will be lots of talks about formulas. There will be lots of talks about transitioning to Lightning. Why yours? What's special about your talk? If you could include superlatives, so much the better. So best, first, only, always, never, that kind of thing. Those are great ways to get folks interested. Our brains pay attention to that. All right, switching to your abstract. So knowing who your audience is and including that information in the abstract. So yes, you need to do this for your content as well, and we talked a little bit about this in the last webinar, but do this in your abstract. Admins will learn. Developers will be able to, so that folks don't self-select out, or can self-select out. There is nothing more demoralizing than being on stage in front of a full room of people and then have half of them get up and walk out 5 minutes in. Tell them who should come and why they should come, and what it is about your content that will be of interest to them. You want to tell a story, right? Once upon a time, I had an org and it was horrible, and here's how I fixed it. You're going to tell them what you're going to tell them, right? I'm going to tell you how I figured out what was wrong with this org and made a plan. Make it relate to their life, their job, their struggles. Some of the less technical talks, around negotiation or building your career or building your social media persona. How does this relate to those folks? So being able to convey to the folks who are reading your abstract what they're going to get out of it. We've all said that 4 or 5 times already. And again, what's in it for me, right? What will they get? What will they be able to do? But also, what will they be able to stop doing? Stop resetting passwords for your users with SSO. Stop. That's the only one I can think of. But be able to stop doing something. Another one here is how will they feel? So come out of my presentation confident that ... From this presentation, you will feel happy to interact with your users again. That's a horribly constructed sentence, but you get what I'm getting at. Tell them how they will feel at the end of the event, or what they'll be able to stop doing. Those folks don't tend to do those 2 things, so that's a good way to get folks' attention. And with that,
Well, Amber, I will tell you, if you come up with a session for Dreamforce that starts with Aardvark and you get selected, I will do my very best to attend. I think we all would owe you that. So, got a question for you. You've been through this quite a bit, I believe, and which is awesome. So you probably had some selections and some rejections. How do you handle that? Does that bother you when you get rejected, and how do you kind of move forward from that?
I am. My brain is a little more compartmentalized than I think a lot of folks. I don't. Um, Oftentimes I've forgotten what I submitted between when I submitted and when the approvals or rejections come out. So I have more than once been approved for something and went, oh crap, I don't remember what I told you I was going to talk about. Can you get back to me with that? Which is a little embarrassing. I try really hard to just move on from that. I pick the events I'm going to attend, and then submit. I don't, I'm not hanging my attendance on whether or not I get picked. And that's because of who my employer is and how that works. If you need to do that, that's a different story. But having been on the selection side for Southeast Dreamin', there is so much amazing content, and there are only so many ballrooms and hotels that you can fill with seats. So I get it; it's hard, but it's a champagne problem.
You got it. All right. Well, I appreciate that. Having a short memory with this stuff is good. You want to learn from it and move on. I like that. Well, a couple last things for everyone who's on. The admin track is open and it's closing soon. So it actually closes in a little over a week. So hopefully you guys can take what you learned today and apply it. So check that out. It's on the admin blog. Also, the developer track is open. I think it has the same dates as well. And then the last thing is looking ahead to next month. So the July webinar is going to be around creating an impactful presentation and focused on the content, deck or demo building. That's on July 6th. Roy will be the host. We have Brad, Dan, and Francis who will be present. So again, looks like we have a half international crowd. So we're really spreading out here. Hopefully you guys can attend that. That link at the top, the bit.ly, is for registration. Really appreciate everyone attending today and anyone listening to this recording. And I think it was awesome. Had some star MVP speakers give their tips.